The moral of that story, guys, is if someone gives you the keys to a GT500, hey guys, it's Nate, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought we'd do a POV. I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I really love about this car, but we'll do a POV style, so you'll get to experience what I get to experience. Yeah, one of the things is the sound, right? I love the sound of this car, the engine sound, the whine, how it all mixes together. It's basically a pure auditory orgasm. So here, here, you can listen to it. I mean, it just comes together. I don't know, I can't describe the feeling you get listening to this thing. If you guys have ever seen the movie Expendables, there's a scene in there where I think it's Jet Li or someone else, maybe Dolph Lundgren, they're trying to escape from this guy, and they're in this pickup truck that just has a supercharger, V8, and man, that was, I think that's the movie I watched, and I was like, oh God, I gotta get a car with a supercharger. Yeah, the only thing on the sound is, I mean, nowadays it's so hot down here in Florida, can't really drive with the windows down to get the full experience, but when the winter comes out, you can drive with the windows down. This thing sounds even better. I love it. And the other thing on this car is with the exhaust baffles, you know, you can kind of drive around. If you're driving around at low speed, you really don't have to make that much noise. That's nice, you know, you don't want to be obnoxious and wake up your whole neighborhood driving around. So I do like the fact that this car came with exhaust baffles. It's really like the best of both worlds. Okay, so just on that same note is just another thing I really love about this car is the power. There's just so much power in this car. It's intoxicating, right? Just to have this much power, you didn't have to shift, and you can just, man, you're just going fast, overtaking, whatever you need to do in this car. I feel like you should get a DUI in this car because of how much power this car has. You're just going to be intoxicated all the time. All right, don't give anyone any law, you know, these crazy lawmakers any ideas about that, but that's the feeling I get. Like I'm intoxicated by the power whenever I drive this car. I'm just driving around in 5th gear right now, and I don't even need to downshift to overtake. So yeah, the other thing is I feel like the design of this car, we'll do a walk around here while I'm talking, but I feel like they knocked this out of the park. I can't find an angle on this car that I kind of think to myself, yeah, I really liked how the car looks from that. And I feel like all of my previous cars I've had, there's been at least one angle that I haven't been like super, you know, stoked about. But on this car, I just don't feel like that. I feel like Dodge knocked it out of the park with the Challenger. So another thing on this car is it's one of the few cars that you could still get in a manual. And that's becoming, I tell you guys, that's becoming so rare these days to find cars that you can still get in a manual. Another one of my all-time favorite cars, the 911 Turbo. Guess what? You can't get that in a manual unless you go all the way back to, I think, 2012. The 997 generation was the last one that you could get in a manual. And it's a shame. I mean, yeah, I get it. The reason why. Automatics, wider appeal, larger sales audience, less and less people that even know how to drive a manual these days, I guess. They're more consistent. They're faster. Like you take an automatic Hellcat, put it up against a manual, and probably 9.5 times out of 10, stock for stock, probably 10 times out of 10, the guy with the automatic is winning at the drag strip. But there's just something, the feel of driving a manual, the feel of having full control, being able to just easily put in a neutral, rev it at a red light. Those are things that you go automatic and you just don't get them back. So it's the driving feel, and I feel like, you know, it's going to be less and less cars that are going to have a manual transmission even offered going into the future. And I really appreciate that Dodge did whatever it took. I'm sure they had to spend some money on R&D to still offer this car in a manual, but I'm just so glad that they did, because that's one of the joys I have is just driving a manual transmission. I did downshift there. That was in 6th. Listen to that whine. Not many things that you could say, oh man, I love to hear that whine. But a supercharger is one of those things. So I have been meaning to put this in one of my videos. So I think a couple of POVs back, I did a song on the supercharger and I never really followed up to say what song that was. So that is My Lahi I don't know, I looked it up. I just know from the lyrics and the sound. It's Dragostino or something like that, whatever. I'll put it down here. You'll see what I'm talking about. But that is the song I was trying to do. Sorry, it wasn't Jingle Bells, and it wasn't Bell Whiny Hum by the Blues or something like that. Although that was a pretty funny answer. All right, so another thing really love about this car is the space, right? The size. So yeah, I feel like this car gets a bad rap because of the size. Everyone's complaining about how big it is. It's a whale, it's a boat, it's a cruise ship. Yes, it's a big car, it's heavy. But you know what? That's what I love about this car. I mean, there's so much space in this car. Look, I can get this car seat back there. Nishan's never really complained about the space in this car. He's comfortable. Look, I remember growing up, my dad had a 2-door Nissan Sentra, and we hated that car. It was a pain to get in, it was a pain to get out, there was no space in that thing. We were like, hey, can you get a minivan? I don't think I've ever heard Nissan ask me for a minivan. Maybe if they start offering the Grand Caravan or whatever it's called now with a Hellcat engine, then he might ask me. There's so much space, you're gonna be comfortable in this car. So speaking about that, a funny story, I was before, actually my 2011 Challenger, I was shopping around and I was like, all right, let me go check out the GT Mustang. Went to the dealership and I was like, hey, can I test drive one? Apparently it was too much trouble for them to find one on the lot. So they're like, hey, just drive this thing. It was the GT 500. So in my head, I'm like, well, this is not gonna drive like a GT. But the other side of my head is like, well, dude, the guy's giving you the keys to a GT 500, just shut the hell up and drive it. So that's what I did. I drove the GT 500. Man, it was a blast. Loved that car. Supercharger one, got a ton of power. There was a cop following me the whole time, so I couldn't really open it up, which kind of sucked. But what I didn't like about that car is the headrest. Some weird thing with the headrest where it was like slanted forward. Maybe I didn't have enough time with the car and I couldn't adjust it, but I was not comfortable. My head was like, right? Just felt like it was tilted forward. Never felt like that in the Challenger. But yeah, the moral of that story, guys, is if someone gives you the keys to a GT 500 and tells you, hey, take this for a test drive, even if that's not what you're thinking about buying it, take the test drive. You won't regret it, I guarantee it. So I really think you're gonna like this next video. Click on it and I'll see you there. Thanks.